The fastest boy in the third grade. Remember when you first spotted him sprinting across the playground, schooling the other boys in a heated game of tag? Or the moment you noticed him at his desk, brown spiky hair sticking up in all the right places? He was the first boy to make you crave the male gaze. He made you wonder what it would be like to have a boyfriend. He inspired you to start a diary. You've been there, dear reader, haven't you? For me, the boy was Jason Spratt. Jason Spratt was the fastest boy in the third grade. You know how in elementary school, everyone is known by their first and last name. Jason Spratt was always and only Jason Spratt. He had the most adorable freckles, and a gray smile and a spiky brown hair that I couldn't resist. We were in the same class, but we were nowhere near each other on the social hierarchy. Jason was a sweet, confident kid who totally knew his own charm. The top of the social food chain, I had more of a C-level social status. It started when I moved to Edmonds, Washington, suburb 30 minutes outside of Seattle. When I was 6, I went from a blue-collar community in Baltimore where everyone was friends and had barbecues and family get-togethers, to this foul upper-class neighborhood that felt incredibly superficial. I know it's counter to the perception of Seattle, but my brother and I both felt it was different in Edmonds. When I say I'm from Seattle, it always feels misleading. Moving to Edmonds felt a little bit like moving to anywhere, USA. It didn't live up to the Seattle stereotype. We arrived in Edmonds in the spring, and on my first day of first grade, my mom put me in a really dramatic sheepskin coat. When she buttoned me up that morning, all I could think was, I cannot wear this to my first day of school. I was 6, and even then I knew this was not good. A 6-year-old in sheepskin doesn't have the makings of social success. Sure enough, the other kids completely mocked me. It stung, but it also planted the seed for a weird clothing rebellion that emerged in middle school. During those years, I wore the most hideous sweater, cherry brown, but in reverse. It had more of a dark color than the light, but it was totally disgusting. But I embraced it for its ugliness. That sweater was my arty fuck you to the mean girls and the popular kids, and the mundane existence I thought Edmonds offered. Then, in 9th grade, I wore a Christmas tree scarf like a cape, which of course got me lots of suitors. Looking back over the years, I've always gotten a lot of strength from being the underdog, or what felt at the time like the underdog. Maybe that story was Jason Spratt. He had a twin brother, David, but unfortunately for David, they weren't identical. All the girls had a crush on Jason. We were in the same class. Jason sat in front as he did his girlfriend, Michelle. I preferred to sit in the back and stare at my crush and his little hair spikes. I recently found the diary I kept in 3rd grade, with pages of scribbles about Jason Spratt. I love Jason Spratt. I hate Jason Spratt. I love Jason Spratt. He smiled at me today. We were assigned our Greek gods, and he was Eros, the god of love, and I was the unsexy Hera, but he shot me with his arrow. One day, I was in the cafeteria, and Jason was behind me in lunch line. After buying my lunch, I spent the 35 cents I had left over on the ice milk dessert. Ice milk was imitation ice cream before frozen yogurt was a thing. I guess it was better for you, but to us 3rd graders, it was all the same. At least, it was appealing enough to get Jason's attention. Man, I wish I could get an ice cream, I heard him say behind me. I'll buy you one, I offered eagerly. this transaction, mine using my extra change to buy Jason's Sprout ice cream. Jason's Sprout letting me buy him ice cream went on for a couple of weeks, until finally he said, "I'll go out with you, but you've got to know that I'm also going out with Michelle." He was a real class act. He told me about Michelle and was honest that he wanted us both. Sounds good, I thought. I'll take what I can get. Michelle was super cool and popular and had a fountain in the house, which was a big deal. The next year, in 4th grade, I invited her over to my place, and she actually accepted and came to my place. That was a shock. My mom had just bought an inflatable boat from Costco. She blew it up, and Michelle and I put it on my bed and played whitewater rafting adventure. We were laughing and really getting into it, riding the make-believe waves and capsizing onto the bed. I'd never seen the side of her. I thought we were having so much fun. A week later, the popular girls all made fun of me because I liked to play boat. But back in 3rd grade, when my romance with Jason was blossoming, Michelle and I didn't have much of a relationship. Shortly after I bought Jason the first ice cream, she came up to me and said, "I know you're going out with Jason too, and I just want you to know I'm cool with it." She walked away before I could even respond. Jason and I didn't speak to each other during our courtship. I mostly saw him during recess, when everyone played tag, and of course, he never got caught, since he was such a fast runner. It was the hardest thing about him. But even at recess, we were G-rated. There was a big moment on the playground when Amy Gray and Sean Bryant were going to have their first kiss, and everyone crowded around them, and they exchanged the tiniest little peck. That was a pretty huge event. I remember it more than any actual education I got in 3rd grade. The non-kiss was a monumental moment in my social education. But with Jason and me, there was no peck. There was just the lunchroom where I continued to bribe him daily with ice mug. I knew on some level that I was buying this guy. I wasn't getting his attention on my own merit. Even at 80 years old, I was a realist. So while it was exciting that he went out with me, it felt like what I imagined it feels like when you win the lottery, but you only win like $5,000. Still, I envisioned myself as the 3rd grade Seattle equivalent of a crappy Boston fighter. All odds were against me. I shouldn't say that because I'm a blonde white American person. But when it came to Anna versus Michelle, there was no comparison in the eyes of the elementary schoolers. I was the short girl who wore a sheepskin coat to her first day of school. Michelle had a fountain in her house that pretty much said it all, and yet there I was sharing Jason with her. For the first time when it came to social status, I was A-list adjacent. Jason dumped me a couple weeks later. He confronted me at recess and said, "I don't think we should go out anymore. I'm just going out with Michelle." It was a stab to the heart. I was devastated. I had nothing to give him but my 35 cents, and he didn't even want it anymore. Maybe Michelle got in his head. She was super sassy and played her cards right. I, on the other hand, was a true sugar mama. So I did what any heartbroken 8 years old would do. I went home, grabbed an orange from the fridge, wrote Jason's name on the peel in black marker, and threw it off the deck into the forest outside of my house. When I was a kid, I wanted to live in the Yukon, so I spent a lot of time in the backyard forest relishing my loneliness. I was dying to live a more dramatic life than Edmonds offered, even then. And this weird ritual, which I deemed the orange ceremony, seemed like a start. I don't know where I came up with it. I certainly didn't read a book that said to pick up an orange and write a boy's name on it in order to get over him. But I ended up doing it with a few different love interests. I must have thought it was profoundly symbolic that by casting the fruit into the abyss, I would somehow rid myself of the hold these emotions had on me. Even at the age, it's so surprising the intensity of feelings you can have for somebody. I felt the need to be liked and the need to be popular. But I was tortured by the neediness because I was also proud and wanted desperately to be confident and independent. I thought the ritual would help. I remember throwing the orange out there and thinking, now I'm complete. Now I'm over Jason Spratt. It didn't work. I was not released. The next day, I went to school and saw Jason and saw Michelle, and was just as devastated. That episode began my long and complicated journey with the idea of closure. Basically, I don't believe in it. I believe in the concept. I get why people crave it, and I understand why I, even in third grade, saw this from the orange ceremony. It's frustrating to feel so powerless against your own feelings, but as an adult, I've learned that closure is unobtainable. I think it happens at death, maybe, but remembering the pain is a good thing, because all those experiences that you can't close the door on make you a more empathetic person, and that should be embraced. I have a pattern. It takes meeting a new guy to help me get over the old one. In the case of Jason Spratt, it was another Jason. He was the newspaper boy, super cute, and a little bit brooding. I left him sodas outside of my house every day so he could have a drink while he was delivering papers. I was totally into bribing these guys. What can I give him out of my fridge that will get his attention? I think there are 5 pages in my diary that read, I'm so over Jason Spratt. I'm totally into Jason Barry. He's so hot and such a mystery. But one day, he didn't take the soda. And I think that was his way of saying, no more, you sad girl. Despite our tragic end, Jason Spratt will always be my first crush. We ended up going to different high schools, so I lost track of him after 8th grade. He has probably changed a lot in the past 30 years, but to me, he'll forever be Jason Spratt, love of running, subsidized ice cream, and spiky bangs.